Okay, a live look at Corktown this morning, and in just a couple of years, it could be baseball and football season. But soccer is at the top of mind for many Detroiters. That's because the DCFC, Detroit City Football Club, they're about to kick off a brand new era here. Take a look at this newly unveiled stadium. Lonafy Field is set to open in 2027. It's all part of a bold move to bring soccer home to Detroit and revive a neighborhood while energizing the entire community. Joining me now to talk about that, Sean Mann, the CEO and co-founder of the DCFC. Sean, thanks again. You're a regular guest on the show at this point. First of all, it must have been incredibly exciting for you to unveil not just the name of the stadium, but what it's going to look like.
Yeah, I mean, Monday night was a big kind of milestone moment for the club that, is part of a pretty amazing journey over the last 13 years since we started this, right? And so, it's kind of a kickoff point to, the next biggest chapter of this, club.
Right. And what I loved about watching that press conference and seeing the fans afterwards was that there's such a strong fan base already. I mean, normally you don't see fans show up to press conferences, right? Well, but they're in it. They're in it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that also speaks to us too, right? And that, it was important to us to do a press conference at a time that wasn't convenient for press, right?
Right.
Like we did it when it was convenient for our fans, and so we did it at 7 o'clock on a Monday night. Yeah. And even despite thunderstorms, we had a few hundred people show up and, just show their love for the club and enthusiasm for the project.
All right, so let's kind of dive into the project a little bit. Obviously, taking over the old Southwest Detroit Hospital there. It sounds like we're a few weeks away from starting to see some, is it going to be bulldozers, cranes, like dynamite? What's the plan here?
So in terms of the demo, we've pumped out, ended up being 1.4 million gallons of water.
That's a little more than we thought, huh?
Yeah, it was cleaned up. It was pumped out as of last week. And so now we're finalizing the demo bids and plans. Okay. And so in the coming weeks here, my understanding is it's not going to be the dramatic explosion. It'll be the crunching claw.
Old crunch.
Yeah. So.
Well, you do have a neighborhood surrounding. You probably should keep the dust down.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, and then from there, how much site cleanup do you have to do before you can start building?
Yeah, I mean, that's what will be most of this fall. We'll be leveling the site and prepping it for actual construction. Right. And so going along with that is the public approval process for actual project, and that starts in earnest next week.
Yeah, I'm not a construction guy at all, but when you look at the logistics of how this has to get done, first you have to tear down the old building, clean up the site, but even though there was a basement, you still have to dig down quite a bit just for all your infrastructure before you can start putting up the walls of the stadium, right?
Yeah, I mean, I learn something new every single day about construction and stadiums, and I've been, it's an education, right?
Right.
So it's not a super simple or straightforward project, and the site is unique, and that's historic, and it's pretty tight, and that's lent itself actually to design. Like the stadium's more vertical, and it kind of like it's an opportunity to like kind of look back at like Old Tiger Stadium, and give it that kind of feel to it.
Right. So, what's interesting too is that you mentioned early on that you don't just want the stadium to be used for DCFC. Like you're looking at concerts and other events. How does that kind of change the design of the building?
Well, it is, soccer specific, right?
Of course, right.
It should be Michigan's, premier soccer venue. But that being said, like we only play 20-some games a year, and we don't want the site to be a dead zone, vast majority of the year. So twofold, like one, like we envision 20th Street being a bridge between Michigan Avenue and Verner, and so the plan includes outward-facing retail, connect those commercial corridors, as well as affordable housing and a parking deck to support the demand that already exists in the neighborhood. But in terms of this venue itself, there's really no comparable venue of that size. So, we're in talks with NCAA type activities, high school, and other pro events, and concerts as well. So, our goal is to create a very intimate and right-sized venue that really isn't a comparable here.
Like we could have some college or high school graduations there.
Yeah, sure. And football, soccer, all kinds of different activities.
Right. You have talked a lot about how you feel the importance of it, not just the stadium, but the neighborhood. So far, what's the acceptance been like? Are people excited about this?
Monday night, it was a pretty humbling moment because I live like in that neighborhood. I bought my house there in 2009, and I'm not going anywhere. Raised a family there, and so you're up there on the stage and you're looking out at the crowd, and not only are there like the DCFC supporters who've been with us all these years, but like they're also like neighbors and friends who like walked over to the unveiling,
Yeah.
and like that enthusiasm and that support, it's kind of shaped this whole project and just gives us an extra layer of meaning to us. And
Right.
it's not just me; the other guys who started the team, like they also live in Corktown and Mexican Town, and so it's shaped how we've approached this from the very beginning.
Yeah. There's always like little Easter eggs and cool architectural things that go into every building and stadium. Have you started talking about some of the cool little features that you're going to want to put in there?
We are actually starting in next week, and we have a series of them over the next month or so, like meetings and sessions with our fans. And like that's one of the big things is we want them to make it feel like home for them from day one, right? And so those are going to be those type of listening sessions. There's definitively going to be a lot of inside jokes from the owners because it's what gets us through the day. So those will be worked in there for sure. And but it was really important to us that the supporters they have their fingerprints on it. We're not going to ask them to talk about load bearings of the roof or like where the MEPs and everything, how that works, but how it feels and what stories it tells. Like we want them to weigh in on that.
That's very cool. I can't wait to hear their feedback and see how it's incorporated in the building. You've also talked a lot about your new the new name, Lonafy Field Stadium. How did that partnership come to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're incredibly fortunate, the people that have stepped up and support us over the years. And Lonafy, we forged a relationship with them last year, and they came on as our front of jersey sponsor. And then obviously there was conversation around the stadium, and they're a growing brand, growing here in Southeast Michigan, and they saw the value, and we have shared values, and they saw what we were doing and the impact this was having on the city, and so I think it was a no-brainer for both parties.
Yeah. One more question for you, and I mean this with no disrespect at all. We have seen over the course of Detroit's history so many big, grand plans for things, and a lot of times the projects just don't come to fruition. We don't see it.
Yeah.
Are we past that point now, or are we still at a point where we're still trying to get secure some of that last-minute funding here?
I mean, as Detroit residents, we are very sensitive to grand reveals and and those posters that at development sites that never materialize.
They're still up, some of them.
Yeah, so it weighs heavily on us that we've always been reluctant to speak about things unless we were confident that we're going to pull them off. And so there's still value engineering to be done, and we still have a public approval process that our final financing is going to be contingent on. We spend every waking moment making sure that that rendering is as close to what people are going to walk into in 2027.
Yeah. But there's at this point this is happening.
Oh yeah, we're one way or another we're willing this into existence. There's just no turning back.
Whether brick by brick Sean builds it himself, it's going to happen.
Yeah, no, I mean, but we are in earnest starting the public approval process next week with the neighborhood advisory committee, and that's an important project. Any effort in Detroit is getting that feedback from local residents.
Right,
So I think that's obviously going to have an impact.
You don't want to be a mammoth that just shows up in the neighborhood.
No, and I mean, thankfully,
you're already there.
I know a lot of the people who are stepping up and volunteering, for better or worse. They've been my neighbors for 20 years, but it's great. And that's gonna have a final impact on how the stadium fits into a neighborhood and even some of the design components. So, but this is kind of our guiding star, and this is what everyone's shooting for.
All right, DCFC 2027. Can't wait. Sean, thanks very much.
Appreciate
Good to
it.
see you again.
Yep.
Thank you so much.